Hello everyone, it is Sunday night and we are here live at Bat City Comic Professionals, which means it must be time to wind down your weekend. We are going to be talking about all of this week's indie and small press new releases. As always, I am your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to lead your way through those books. It was, as always, a wonderful time this week at Bat City. We had so much going on. We actually had the first ever Old Manatee Historic District block party for Christmas time. It was great. It was our candlelight block party. There were so many businesses up and down the street that were participating, and it was absolutely amazing. Just to give a shout out to all of the ones who had something going on. We had Edelweiss German restaurant was doing German hot chocolate and Stollen. We had Vernona screening Christmas movies while they actually had Hungarian hot spiced wine available, and oh my gosh, was that delicious. Segunda Vida had a flash mob to kick off the event, as well as a bunch of fun stuff going on throughout the night, including tamales for sale and ponche, which was delicious. And then Loving Hands Thrift Shop had some fantastic popcorn, and I'm so excited that they now own that popcorn machine because we're going to need popcorn for every event from now on, which was also really cool just to have Loving Hands and Segunda Vida open at night, because usually both of those places close by 4 every day, so it was really fun to have them open during the nighttime with us. And then Central Cafe had some amazing drink specials. We had Your Honeycomb and Vintage Vine were playing host to Santa and Mrs. Claus, which was absolutely wonderful. It would snow when you would leave Your Honeycomb. You would get covered in snow, which was absolutely amazing. And then we also had crafts and snacks here, and our wonderful crafts we had set up, and then the amazing Julia from Urban Loft was actually doing all of those crafts for us. If you haven't checked out that event space, you should definitely go by there and book it sometime for a private event. It's so cool and amazing. It was so great. The whole community came together. There were so many things going on. There was carolers walking up and down the streets. We had a great performance from them in every location, which was really cool. It blew our minds when they came to Bad City. We were not expecting that. The incredible work that they did. So shout out to all of them. Shout out to the dancers for the flash mob. It was absolutely so much fun. If you missed it, hopefully you'll catch it next year. Like I said, it's the first ever one. And we will be collecting all of the maps. If you turned in your stamped map, we're going to be collecting those this week. And there will be prizes coming your way from each of the locations, as well as a prize package from Altitude Trampoline Park, which we're really excited to give that away. So thank you to everybody who showed up. Thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to all of the businesses on the street for just being open and being there and having a blast. It was so much fun. And I can't wait to see what the next big, fun, exciting event is going to be. And if you haven't been to Old Manatee Historic District yet, there's always something incredible going on. So you should definitely head down here and check out all of those amazing shops, restaurants, and venues and event spaces. We are going to wind down our weekend this weekend with 50 Provinces, which is a Tempranillo, so it means it's a Spanish wine. It's usually going to be, it's supposed to be more of like the spicy, like hard flavors. We're going to see where this one falls in that. This company, 50 Provinces, they don't just do Tempranillos. They do a lot of the different types of, I know for sure, red wines. So we're gonna see how it goes. But the 50 Provinces does come from the Spanish provinces. So hopefully, it's still imported, and so hopefully it's gonna be a strong Tempranillo. Not as spicy. Has a little bit more of your fruit cut to it. It doesn't necessarily, usually a Tempranillo kind of ends on those peppery flavors. This one kind of ends more on that fruit. It doesn't have that back kick to it. But it's still good.
There's a spice.
There's a spice, but I don't feel like it's
pronounced.
Yeah, it's not, and it's not it's not as peppery. It's more of I don't know what the spice is, but it's not that really strong Tempranillo flavor. But as with all Tempranillos, I think it would taste delicious with pretty much any food you want to pair it with, or just drink it on its own. And this does have a little more of the, like, on its own drinkability in that it doesn't have as much of the spice. So if you're somebody who's not able to handle the spiciness of the Tempranillo, this would actually give you something that wouldn't be as rough. I was trying to see if it had anything special on the back, but it kind of just talks about all of their flavors and how much, like, they want to be diverse with each of their different types of wine. And I'd be really curious, because they do have a Cab Sav. I'd be curious to taste what the variation is between their Cab Sav and their Tempranillo, because this almost feels more like a Cab Sav at times, like in its taste to me, than it does a Tempranillo. So I would be really curious to see how stark of a difference those two have. But we're going to be drinking this all night. If you're drinking something exciting, whether that's just a fresh glass of water, or maybe you're having some hot cocoa or getting ready for the Christmas season with eggnog. I was like, what is that thing that people drink at Christmas time? Maybe you have some delicious, warm, hot wine or apple cider, a wassail, if it were. Let us know. We want to hear what you're doing to wind down your weekend. I'm going to share this really fast to let other people know we are having a blast. Having fun talking about comics. It's my favorite thing to do. Just talk about comics and hang out with people. So I'm glad you're all there. So the other thing is, over the last month, we were partnered with Vintage Vine, our wonderful neighbors, to collect toys for Tots. So I believe, I think it was 2 or 3 boxes that Carolyn ended up having to switch out at her store, and then we had about 6 or 7 here. So we were trying to aim to see if we could hit 10 boxes of donations, and you guys got really, really close if you didn't actually hit that number, because there were some days where we didn't actually even put it in the boxes. It was so overflowing that we were just like, hey, can you come get it? So we might have actually, like, surpassed the 10 giant Toys for Tots donation boxes. And so every single person who brought in some of those new toys, thank you so much. And for all the people who brought in those awesome collectible toys that kids these days can't get their hands on because people are buying them off the shelves in bulk, or they haven't been around since like the 90s or before, thanks so much for giving a kid something really truly magical this year for Christmas. But we're not done. We had the Hobgoblin statue up for random chance drawing, and you could purchase tickets, and we are actually going to use that money to bring even more gifts to the Tots, to the Toys for Tots Foundation. And so we are actually going to pick who gets the Hobgoblin statue. That is going to one of you who bought tickets, and the money from the tickets is actually going towards more toys for Toys for Tots. So I'm actually going to give it a little shake. See that I'm actually shaking it. Okay. Do a little flip. Yeah. Oh, let's get that really shook up. It's like making a salad in here. All right. But I am going to actually open it up, and I'm going to have Matt stick his hand in there and see what you get. You got a winner?
I have a winner.
You have a winner. I cannot. That looks like it says Greg Martin. Is that what that says?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay, Greg Martin, we will be giving you a call to let you know that you have won the Hobgoblin statue. So get ready, Greg. If for some reason, Greg's like, I actually don't want it, pass it on to somebody else, we'll pull another name. So we're going to keep these all in here. But Greg Martin, as of right now, Hobgoblin belongs to you, sir. So, and it does have a box and everything. So when you do pick it up, it will get boxed up. I'm going to hide that over there. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much to everybody who bought a ticket, who donated to the cause. So many people were like, hey, if I win, find a child to give it to. So I just appreciate how incredibly loving this whole thing has been. And a huge shout out to the Sweeney family who actually bought the Hobgoblin statue for the raffle and wanted to raffle it off for that Toys for Tots program. So we really, really appreciate them for everything that they've done to help that become a reality. And thank you to everybody who did that. All right, we're going to talk about some comic books today, and we are going to have a great time. There's a lot of Bad Kid Press comics, and I'm always excited when that's a thing, so it's going to be a good time. We are going to jump in, though, with House of Slaughter number 20 from Boom Studios. as you Something is Killing Children's fans may know, this is like your companion series to that, and each arc of House of Slaughter is completely unrelated to like the previous one for the most part. And they go back and forth on writers. So this one is being written by Sam Johns, who is kind of giving us more information about the rest of the characters, the rest of the world within the House of Slaughter. And in this story, we've been following, this is the Alabaster story arc, and we've been following a kid who has not been able to go out on a mission really yet, and they call him bait because they always use him as the bait in these missions, essentially. And he's gone out on a personal mission. He's with a family. He's basically supposed to be pretending to be a kid who was adopted, and he's trying to stop an Oscuro-type monster that is really just taking down all of these kids. And at this point, he and the kids have kind of come together to work to stop these monsters themselves. They've kind of developed their own like white mask hunting party, essentially, and that isn't going to work for the House of Slaughter. And if you know the way the House of Slaughter works, you know that there are strict rules about how everything goes, and we are seeing a lot more information about those rules. We're also learning a little bit more about how serious the Red Mask take the situation in this issue, and this is going to kind of give us really a big entry point into some more situation of things that are going on. And there is a thing that happens at the end of this issue that is leading towards hopefully some really big stuff in the Slaughterverse universe. So, Something That's Killing the Children really just follows Erica's journey. And so I've kind of been loving Sam John's take on the House of Slaughter books because I love seeing the rest of the house and what's going on. And there are some things I've been waiting to see really kind of come about, and Sam is always the one that hints to those big things within the house, and this was no exception. So if you're a Something Is Killing the Children fan, grab your House of Slaughter, and honestly you can grab like arcs 1 and 3 kind of go together, but arcs 2 and 4 you can grab at random. They don't really necessarily go in a certain order, so feel free, jump in. Damn Them All, issue 11, also from Boom Studios, and this series to me feels like it's going to wrap up on the next issue. I can't control whether or not that's true, so don't quote me on it, but it feels like we're kind of getting to at least the end of the next story arc, but it seems like we should be kind of heading towards some kind of conclusion. But this is the story of a woman who's basically just John Constantine. She has the ability to see demons and also to kind of send them back to where they're going or where they need to go. And she's learned all that from her uncle, who at the very beginning of issue 1 has passed away. And so now she's having to deal with all this demon stuff. But the mob families in England have figured out a way to take all of these demons and control them and open them up to everybody in the world, and now literally all hell has broken loose, and she is having to deal with this on her own. And she really, much like Constantine, would rather just be drinking and smoking and doing anything other than actually having to deal with all this drama. And over the last 11 issues, we've really seen exactly how she has to deal with putting it all back together, and whether or not it's even going to be a possibility for her to live any sort of life outside of just doing this exact thing. And she's had some betrayals and some new friendships and some more betrayals and some demons who should have been on her side and who weren't, and all kinds of stuff. It's just, if you've been missing having a Hellblazer John Constantine series in your life, and you're like, I really just want a Vertigo Hellblazer series back in my life, honestly, you should be reading Damn Them All. If you just really need John Constantine himself, I will tell you that he is coming back soon to the DC world. But until then, get on that. Earthdivers, issue 13, and this is the latest part of the Earthdivers 1776 story arc coming to us from IDW and their Originals imprint. This is a story of basically the future of America, and it's basically all kinds of destroyed. And this group of first Americans have decided they're going to take it back, and they're going to go back in time, and they're going to figure out how to solve all of the problems that were caused when, we over time have destroyed America. And it's like they originally start with, maybe we need to go back to Columbus and kill him. Realize that didn't do any good, which of course makes sense because he didn't really land in America proper. And then they go back to the Ice Age and they think, oh, maybe if we get them like when people are coming across the Bering Strait, we'll be able to stop it. Didn't help. And now they are in 1776 and they are determined to really find the solution at like the day that the Constitution is signed. And the Declaration of Independence and all of that, they're like, we can do this. We have to go back to that time period when America was founded and kind of convince the founding fathers not to mess everything up. But the problem is that once one person goes back in time, they allegedly cannot come back to the future. So it's just kind of the ripple effect of seeing whether or not it works. And we get to follow each person as they do their journey. And Emily is actually the one who went back in time to 1776. Which isn't exactly a time when people listen to women. So she has been trying to pose as a man to get the founding fathers to listen to her. And we're going to see how that plays out because we are nearing, kind of the pivotal point in this story arc. So we're going to see if she's able to make that difference. But we're also starting to see the rules that we were taught about time travel may not actually be accurate. And we're going to see where that goes as the story unfolds. Phantom Road issue 7 from Image Comics. This is one of those Jeff Lemire books that's weird and off the wall, and you wonder where exactly is this man taking us, and I don't know. But this follows a semi-truck driver who, in the very first issue, is trying to get, his truck across the world, the country, and he ends up running into a woman who is her car is broken down. She's in desperate need, and so he ends up helping her, and they ends up on a separate magical road. We call it the Phantom Road as it is. And they have these zombie-like, I Am Legend kind of maybe vampires. We're not really sure what they are. That are just hunting them down and following them. And they learn that they now have a special load that they have to carry. And they're going to have to figure out what that is and take it to where it's going to go. But it's not safe. And they keep kind of going back and forth between our world and this Phantom Road. And it all seems to connect to these weird truck stops. Meanwhile, there's an FBI agent who is also investigating it. And as she starts to put things together, we are learning a little bit about her past and maybe her connection with the Phantom Road that we weren't expecting as the story unfolds. And where these paths are going to connect is going to really give us some big answers. But in this issue, we found ourselves really struggling to piece anything together. Everybody's like, I think I've got it, and it kind of dwindles as they put it together, and so we're going to see those next waves of where things might lead us. Antarctica, issue 6 from Image and the Top Cow imprint. It's always so weird to me that Top Cow is back and still going strong, but I love it. This is about a girl who her father, she thought, was just kind of a scientist working out on different quests and things like that. And then one day, as a child, he disappears, and she's like, I don't know where my dad went, but I'm gonna try to find him. She, of course, can't do it. She ends up finding herself on the street. She grows up. She kind of gets her life back together and becomes somebody who can go to work on all of the things in Antarctica that her dad was working on, or so she thinks, only to find out that there is a parallel universe that is opening up and attempting to swallow our world, or maybe our world swallowing in it. Kind of depends on which person from which universe you're talking to. And it all centers around her dad and where he falls within that. And in this issue, we see back when she was a young kid, we kind of see some of the time that she spent with her dad. And maybe her first inkling that there was more than one world. But those things that you kind of push out of your mind when you're a little kid because you don't really understand, we're kind of piecing that she may have had more experience than she ever knew as we get through this issue. And I'm really, really curious to see where this is going to go. I love that this part of the arc has been focused more on that childhood, because the first arc was kind of just threw us into Antarctica and had all the action of have to solve the world, have to figure all this stuff out, and now we're getting that backstory, and I love that it's unfolding slowly as we move through, and it's been a wild adventure. Scrapper, issue 6 from Image Comics, and this is the last issue of this run, possibly this entire series. We're going to see where this actually goes, but this is all about a dog named Scrapper who was experimented on and given these supernatural powers that are supposedly all in his collar. And he ends up on the streets of a city that is being overrun by a capitalist organization that has been the one experimenting on all these animals. And while he is finding a new home with the family, something bad happens to them. And he is like, it's my responsibility to protect them and the other people of the city and my animal friends. So he teams up with a raccoon, a couple other dogs, and the cats and the pigeons and the rats of the city. And they are now taking down this capitalist evil corporation that's literally called Smite. And they are going for it. And this is, you know, the culmination of all of those animals coming together and working to solve that. If you like the kids' movie Bolt, but you want a little more adult version of it, this is going to be a great one for you to pick up, because it's just adult Bolt. The Madness, issue 5 from AWA. And this is, while this is J. Michael Straczynski, this doesn't connect to his original universe that he had built at AWA. We've kind of moved to just single worlds and stuff like that at this point. But this is about a woman who is a superpowered individual, and she kind of used her superpowers just to be a thief and to get the things that she wanted out of the society. And she was supposed to be on, you know, keeping away from that, kind of quitting retirement, so to speak, because she fell in love with a man and his 2 children, and she was going to become their stepmom. They were going to get married. It was going to be wonderful. And she's like, I'm going to do one last job. And we know anytime somebody does one last job, it goes absolutely terribly. And she ends up being caught by these people for doing it, but instead of going after her, they go after her family. And we learned that she has a darkness inside of her, a madness, if you would, that is always begging to come out. And part of that strength comes from that darkness inside of her. And now they have unleashed the madness, and she might not be able to put it back in any more than they can. And this series is just getting a little wild. We only have one more issue left to see, at least in this arc, to see if she's going to stop when she gets her revenge, or if she's going to keep going until forever, because she can't hold in the magic or the madness anymore. Say it for me, Matt.
Project Riese.
Project Riese, issue 5 from Mad Cave. Most of the Mad Cave books have been ending at 5 recently, 4 or 5 issues, but this one is actually not the final issue of this story. So this is about a group of people who are trying to hunt down this right here. All of the mysterious gold that the Nazi organization had hoarded away, and instead they kind of end up in this underground tomb, massive building, like this whole big thing, where they find out that that's not all, but there was all these experiments, all this paranormal research we heard that they were doing. Like, maybe they actually were, and here are all the places they did that, and here's all the other stuff that they were working on. And they kind of just keep going further and further into this world, and they're currently trying to get away from some soldiers who are after them. And in the process, they not only find, like, the gold that they were hoping to find, but they find some crazy things that nobody would have ever expected. And now they really need to find their way out is what they need, because that's really the most important thing. They are getting further and further down, and they don't know how to get out. And it is, there is no good moment in this. Like, it's like they're like, hey, we did it. Now we're going to do this thing and it's going to be okay. And they're like, nope, because here is the other problem that you have. And I love it, because when I teach this comic writing workshops, I'm always like, every problem should spur like 3 more problems to keep your plot going. And they should be natural problems that occur from the one big problem that you put up. And this book is like the perfect example of it, because they're like, okay, here's our problem. And then they're like, all right, we're working towards that solution. But did you know that these 3 things came out of that other problem, and now we're not going to be okay until we figure out all of these issues. And every issue has a great cliffhanger. So if you are looking for a more serious almost version of something like an Indiana Jones, but also a little, but more of like Indiana Jones Crystal Skull, because you're going to get all the weird paranormal stuff mixed into it, that's going to be an adventure for you. The Enfield Gang Massacre, number 5 from That Texas Blood. And I believe this one is the end of this run. But This has been so good. I'm going to double check that because now I'm like, wait, was it, or is there one more page? There might be. Oh, no, we'll have one more issue, at least. But this is, if you read that Texas Blood, you know that it all takes place in Ambrose County, which is a county in West Texas, according to the series. And it's gone through different time periods. And they kind of just decided with this one to separate themselves from the one sheriff and the one job that took place like over the course of his life. And they're like, let's go back to the Old West, which I love because it's on this amazing newsprint paper. But this is your classic Western movie. Like, a guy named Enfield has a gang of robbers and somebody kills the banker. And of course they all just assume that it's Enfield. And so they go after, like, the town's people are going after Enfield and they're going to take out his whole gang, and you get your like shootout at OK Corral kind of thing. And in this issue, Enfield and a couple of the people are trapped in a barn, and he is learning what actually happened during the bank robbery and what actually went wrong. And meanwhile, the marshal is actually around, and he's like, I don't think that Enfield did this, and he's been doing his investigation. And we're kind of going to see those storylines cross in the next issue for sure, which I think is going to be the wrap-up issue, because it really feels like we're coming to that head. Junior Baker, The Righteous Faker, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is a totally, like, eccentric, like, esoteric in appearance kind of book, and really it kind of flows in that same way, too. This is about a man who is a reporter for essentially, like, a BuzzFeed kind of thing. It's literally called Blitzfeed. He's like, oh, I'm all about telling the truth, but, like, I only ask the questions that will lead to the truth that I want, so that when I write these stories, I get the crazy, outlandish thing that I want. And he kind of is always the guy that takes on the weird paranormal stuff. And over the last few issues, we've been following him as he kind of just destroys his life. Like, his girlfriend is pregnant. They're going to be having a baby soon. He's missing all of it. And he just can't let go of this weird, like, case that he's absolutely certain he has to solve and tell this story. And she's like, you're going to miss everything. And then he's having these possibly hallucinations, possibly actual visions of what the world is like beyond the world. And it just, he's kind of losing it, but also, like, maybe is the one seeing the real world for what it is. And in this issue, he heads off to actually investigate something that he is certain is going to lead to the answers of whether or not there's ever been superpowered beings, whether or not this weird cultist group is existing. And he finds himself in some very weird places, but he actually starts to get answers, and whether or not those answers are going to lead him to anything that's going to be worth the life that he is losing back home, we will find out as the story goes on. But I love it because he is so disorganized in his brain space and in his thoughts that, like, the jumbled art really works well for, like, I don't know what's real versus what isn't, and I don't really know if we're discovering anything, and so it fits all together really nicely. The Adventures of the GWF, or the Galactic Wrestling Federation, issue 4 from Bad Kids Press. I'm so excited to see, literally we have 3 books from Bad Kids out this week, and I love it when we do, and I love their paper quality. It's just such a nice stock. But this is the story of a boy, I love this, of a robot who is a wrestler, whose dad is known as, like, the greatest of wrestlers, and his father is killed during a wrestling match, and he is on his way for revenge. They are actually in a food court in this, and it's just kind of like the most hilarious food court, which is why I had to show you that. But they've gone to a place called Arena, and they are supposed to be in a fight to the death, essentially, with another person. And he's like trapped. Like, they keep trying to, like, keep him away from getting into the ring, and they don't want to let the battle actually happen. And the programmer, the promoter of this thing is just like, oh yeah, well, if he doesn't play the gig, then I get the money and everything is fine. And his promoter is like, no, that's not how this is going to work. Like, where is he? You can't attack him. You can't hide from him. And so he ends up coming out and trying to get into this battle. Meanwhile, the guy that he is fighting is just kind of a, really over the top, full of himself guy. And the guy that he is actually after is hanging out in space, waiting for the moment where he can actually swoop in, not with a chair, but might as well be, because he swoops in with some asteroids and is like, hey, I'm going to battle you, and you can't stop this. And, of course, we're going to see what happens and whether or not he actually can stop it, whether or not he's ever going to get revenge for what happened to his dad, and whether or not he is just a pawn in a bigger game. All things we're going to find out by the end. But he has, there's so much heart behind this little robot story. Katie Black Dragon, issue 4, also from Bad Kids Press. This is the story of Katie Black Dragon, who is a mercenary. She's kind of like, essentially not any different than Deadpool, honestly. And she kind of has some great humor and stuff as well. But she takes her job very seriously. She's the best at it. And we've gone on essentially an anthology-style journey with her, because every issue she's on a different mission. And we just kind of get to see Katie take these on. And in this one, she is hired to steal some information. And when she goes to do it, there's all these other people who are there trying to, stop her from doing it. And she's like, oh my gosh, they have a truth bot. I can't, and it can take me out. I can't get around them. And her attack people are like, oh, well, then just tell the truth, but make it sound scary so that they won't attack you. And so she has to, talk her way out of this battle. Only then to find out that, the mission that she needs to go on from there is that she has to go and, let me see if I can find it. She has to go to a jungle to save a giant, cybertronic cat, aka tiger. And she's like, oh my gosh, I have to go out on this quest and find this giant animal. And then when she finds the tiger, she finds out that the only way to calm the tiger is in a very strange way. And she's not very excited about it. We get to see Katie loosen up just a little bit as she gets to help save this cat. It's so much fun. This is just one of those books where, like I said, it's kind of got a little bit of that Deadpool humor, but if it was a little more serious. So you're really rolling that merc story into more of a mercenary role with more of a woman just kicking butt all over the place. So The Nowhere Man, issue 4, also from Bad Kids Press. It has been a long time coming for this issue, so I'm very excited that it is finally here. If you started Nowhere Man, it was probably about this time last year, I think, when the first issue came out. And, can I show you this really fast? So, Bad Kids Press and us are really, we've been champions for Bad Kids Press for a long time. And so, while watching Wind Down Your Weekend, part of one of the things that they got inspired by is the idea to make Bad Kids Press themed wines, which I was really excited about. And I'm really hoping to get to try them someday. They don't distribute here in Florida yet, but I'm hoping. I really want to try them all. I think that's really great. Anyway, Nowhere Man kicked off about this time last year with a guy who found himself in essentially a purgatory afterworld kind of situation, and he woke up and it was almost Twilight Zone-esque because he woke up in an empty town that was very familiar to places he had been before, and he kept thinking that he was following his dad and was supposed to be figuring out how to get in touch with the dad who he hadn't seen since he was a kid because he had passed away himself. And now he's just kind of in this really weird existential journey. He finds himself wandering a desert with a man who may or may not be a god. And now they've come across another god who's I'm the god of parts, essentially. And everything that doesn't work in the universe, I kind of rebuild. Very Hephaestus-esque type god. And they meet in this random shack, and he's like, I really just need something that will help me figure out what I'm supposed to do. How do I navigate my way through this world? Am I supposed to go back? Am I capable of going back? What is it where am I going? What is this nowhere that I'm supposed to go through? And he kind of gets to ask some of those questions and learn that he's not really asking the right questions of this journey. And so maybe as he heads into the next wave of his journey, we're going to see him actually start to piece things together. But this is a very lost man who really needs some help figuring it out. I am going to take another drink of this delicious wine. This is 50 Provinces. It's Tempranillo, which means it's a spicy Spanish wine. Obviously, when I'm telling you all about these comics that I read this week, I would love to hear about the ones you're reading this week as well. And I have so many people ask me this, do you actually read all the books you talk about on the live stream? Yes. I do. I read every single one of these books that I'm talking to you about, and then some, actually. And I do that every week so I can tell you what they're actually about and not just the synopsis that maybe on like a website or something you might read on the back of the book. I want to tell you what they're actually about from somebody who read them and who has read all of the issues leading up to the issues that we're on right now, so you can get a realistic opinion of what's happening in the book, or a realistic journey essentially told to you through these books, and figure out like whether or not they're the right book for you. And that's why we show you the art. That's why we show you the book. There's so many amazing comic books that hit the shelf every single week, and it's so hard to know like what they're all about. You know, people always tell me like, I can't read everything. Well, the good news is I can, and I do, and I want to tell you all about them so that you can find the one that's right for you. So if you ever have a question about what a book's about, feel free to ask us, even if you're not here in Bradenton and you're like, I really want to know what this book's about. Shoot us a message. We're happy to give you a synopsis of all the books that we read, or like, hey, did you ever cover this on Wind Down? Are you going to talk about it on Wind Down your weekend? Because I really want to know what that book's about. I am always happy to tell you, and I'm always going to be enthusiastic about what you're reading. So please tell me what you're reading, because I love to hear what everybody else is loving. Because seriously, I mean, if I put out 100 books on the shelf this week, there's gonna be 100 different titles, and they all have the chance to be your favorite book. You won't know until you pick it up and read it. And so give it a shot. Grab a comic. Don't let anybody tell you what books are not for you. Let yourself decide that. Come in, grab a book, go to your local comic shop, pick up a book, try something new, and know that comics right now are incredible and you want to give them a shot. It's like going into a bookstore. You know, you go to your Barnes & Noble or hopefully your local independent bookstore, and you pick up stuff off the shelf and you look through it and you try to decide which one's the right one for you. You read the back, you read the first chapter, whatever it is you do. That some people read the end of the book. That's totally up to you if that's how you read your books. Nobody's here to tell you how to read. But you find that book that's right for you in whatever genre you're feeling that day. And comic books have the same ability to offer you that. Every genre you can find at a traditional publishing bookstore is in a comic book store. They're all there. There's so many options. And so whatever it is that you're craving and you're looking for a book for, go to your local comic shop and check it out and see if you can find it. Ask somebody to give you direction. Again, message us. I'm happy to give you a suggestion if you need one. Because there's so many incredible books right now. They're amazing. We've got new writers, we've got old writers, we've got new artists, we've got old artists, we've got people who are trying things that have never been tried before in comic books, and it is such a great time to be a comic book fan, no matter what you hear. The only person who can decide whether or not comics are for you is you. So go to a store, grab a book, and fall in love with reading something that you never would have thought you would love before. And in case you need more suggestions, I still got a giant stack we're going to talk about. So we are going to switch to Operation Sunshine, issue 3 from Dark Horse Comics. Now, we are in the resurgence of vampires. And as somebody who loves it every time we are in a resurgence of vampires, I'm so excited for this. And this is kind of more on your, almost on your dark comedy side of the vampire world. This is about a girl and a boy who are what they call bugs, which is somebody who was turned into a vampire. And in their world, OVs are those original vampires, people who were just naturally vampires from the beginning. And they're the ones who are the elitist upper class. And they look really far down on the bugs, kind of, something, they call them bugs, so obviously they think there's something that you can just squish and get rid of. And so in this series, we have found these two people who have paired together are now stuck by an OV who is you're going to do my plan, my bidding. I want to get rid of all of these other people. I've got this great plan. It's huge. There's all this weird information. Basically, just trust me, you're in whether you want to be in or not. And they're like, well, do we really have a choice? And he's like, not really, because I'm an OV and you're a bug and I will crush you. And they're like, okay, so now we're stuck together as partners and we're doing something we don't want to do. And so in this issue, they actually return to a city that is made for bugs, and they go to somebody who was a friend in the past that they think can help them and possibly get away from the OV. But this guy seems to have his hooks into everything, and we are going to see what it is that they actually have to do coming up in the next issue, I have a feeling, and we're going to see whether or not Operation Sunshine can ever be successful. And again, dark comedy. So honestly, if you're a fan of what we do in the shadows, like, and you're like, I want some more dark vampire comedy, like, give this a try. It's not as dry as that, but at the same time, because it's a little more action-y than that, but at the same time, I think that you're gonna find something in there that you might be interested in if you're a fan of that, because you do get almost that same British level of humor. It's more like British punk rock humor, but you gotta try it. Killmore, issue 3 from IDW and their original imprint. This is such a unique concept, and I love it. This is all about a town that essentially ran itself into the ground, and now the only thing that remains is the people who can't afford to move out of town, and a little bit of the police force, and a lot of people who are just there to murder other people. And so we're seeing people just show up to this town at random when everybody else is moving out of town. These people are all moving in, and they are doing it just because there's nobody that can stop you from killing people in all of the craziest ways possible. And so we follow, more so we're focusing on a homicide detective and a missing persons detective who are now working together to kind of match their lists and see how many of these people are actually being killed. And they're kind of the only cops that are left that are doing anything about the situation. So they've decided to make themselves partners, and they are going to solve all these cases. And we know for a fact that we have 3 major serial killers that we're dealing with, but wait, there's more. There's always more. Every time you turn around in this place, more people are being killed, hence the name Killmore. And there is so many things that are opened up in this issue. Like we met a husband. We met this woman who's on this page who has a hotline that kind of is like a 1-900 line, but is also, she's like, oh, I'll just take any secrets that you want to give me and I'll keep them safe for you. And so we get this really, really weird story that doesn't seem to go anywhere, but is definitely going somewhere. And we kind of learn a little bit more about the world through that conversation. This book is opening up for a lot. Issue 4 doesn't come in until January, and we always talk about the 3rd issue being the turn, and there was such a subtle one in this issue. Like they smoothly transitioned you from like where we were to where they want you to go, and you're not even going to realize where that is until you get that issue 4, and I just think that's incredibly well done. The Man from Maybe, issue 3 from Oni Press, and this is Shaky Kane and, oh my gosh, I just not looking. Is it Jordan Thompson? What is? I'm gonna get it wrong. I'll show you after. I'll tell you after I open the book. But the same team that just did Weird Work for Image is bringing us this book. And yeah, Jordan Thomas. I was right. Okay. And this is the story of the Man from Maybe, who is kind of like your typical cowboy, the rugged guy who shows up and just kind of saves the day. Except it's in a Shaky Kane Jordan Thomas world, so it's weird. Like he's got alien powers, and he might be an alien, and aliens crash landed, and they brought this giant lizard with them, and now giant lizard is killing everybody, including this little girl's family. So now she's like, I have to go on this journey with you so that I can avenge my family. And he's like, okay, but things are gonna get weird, and they do, because Shaky Kane is drawing it, and that's cool. Like, it's such a cool looking book, and if you love the weird, like, off-the-wall storytelling and these crazy art design, this is gonna be a great book for you. This is such a fun one, and honestly, this is the end. It was 3 issues. So if you want something quick and easy and just bright colored and fun, and you like those Old West stories, this is a great twist on all of that, bringing in the sci-fi story to it. And I hope we get another volume, because they definitely left it a little open on that ending where we could possibly see some more. A Haunted Girl, issue 3 from Image and the Syzygy imprint. This book has been such a cool way to tell this story. This is a father, and he is actually working with his daughter on it. Ethan Sachs brought his daughter in to write this story with him, and it is about a teenage girl who in the very first issue is in an institution because she is struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts. And they think it's just because she's having these weird dreams and these weird visions. But in actuality, she is actually seeing those visions, but it's because she's meant to save the world. She's like the chosen one. But she doesn't trust anything that she sees or hears because everybody's been telling her that it was because she was crazy all this time. And so now she feels like she has to go out and save the world, and she has been approached by a ghost. And he's like, I'm the one that can lead you to stopping this situation. And we learn in this issue that may not necessarily be the case. And she needs to open herself up to other people who may be able to help her, but she doesn't really know how to do that because of how much people have made her feel isolated over the course of her time struggling with her different situations. And so it's such a good ghost story, such a good like haunted thing. I'm going to show you this. Such a good like you have to be the one to save the world paranormal journey. It's been a fun book, and one of the things I absolutely love about it is both the front and back covers of the interior covers. And the last couple pages, I'm going to flip to that now. Ethan and Naomi have been doing a really good job of listing resources. So if you are someone who is dealing with depression or suicidal thoughts, they are giving you resources in multiple places in the book so that you can find those numbers, you can find that you're not alone, and that you can figure out how to reach out to somebody who can help you, which I think is really great when we have books that take on tough topics like that, to actually give those resources to the people who may need them. Alice Cooper. This is issue 3 of volume 2 from Dynamite. If you didn't read volume 1, that's totally okay. It does not matter. You can jump in with this series right here, which actually kicks off in Sarasota, Florida, as Alice Cooper on tour. And we find out in this series that the devil used to be the person who made all of the music. When he was an angel, he was the best musician. He played, in this issue we actually find out that he used to play music all over the Garden of Eden, and actually that is what made him get them to eat the apple and go against God, was because he was real mad that God made him stop playing music. And that's actually the whole reason for his uprising, is that like God just decided he didn't like Satan's music anymore. And now his secret plan is that he is going to destroy all musicians who are rock gods, essentially. Anybody that has a bigger following than him that's a rock musician, he is taking them out. And he has already taken out a bunch of them, and now he is after Alice Cooper. But the angels have come to Alice and are like, hey, you're the only one who can stop this. You must fight the devil. And that is where we are with Alice trying to stand against Satan. And he tries to go head on against him in this issue, and it doesn't actually work out quite the way he was expecting it to. But we are going to see whether or not this plays out in the future. The craziest thing to me is that this is all written by Rodney Barnes, who you may know from like Philadelphia, if you've been following that series for the last 32 issues or so. And so it's so crazy because you never think of like the big name like people who are doing these like Eisner nominated series taking on some of these music books, but Rodney is definitely doing it, and he's making such a fun series out of that. American Psycho issue 2 from Sumerian Comics. And yes, this is American Psycho, Patrick Bateman, like that Christian Bale movie that you probably know and most of you probably love. This is that. And it kind of started out essentially as like a prequel, and it was following Willem Dafoe's character as he's watching Patrick, and while he's kind of figuring all of that out and what's going on, we kind of see him as a almost a voyeur to the situation, like really just following him and being really curious about what is going on, and almost having this like, if I was going to kill somebody, this is kind of what I would do, and like idolizing him essentially. And as we see in this issue, we kind of follow Patrick a little bit and see how he kills people a little bit, to the extent of like, oh, he's not just taking home women, he's doing this and all of that. But the thing about this that's interesting is that we do actually, while that's supposed to be primarily a prequel situation, we actually, let's see if I can find the page. Let's do this the easy way. We actually fast forward to 2011, and we see a woman who finds herself in a situation where she wakes up in a bed that's covered in the same bloody sheets like you might see in Patrick's apartment, and is like, I have no idea what happened. Did I kill someone? Did someone try to kill me? What is going on? And she remembers a situation that we might have seen come from American Psycho, but doesn't really know how she got there. So such a twist for that story, because everybody was like, oh, this is just going to be a prequel inside of that same world, and now it might actually be a sequel, or it might be a little bit of both. So we're gonna see, it's just living in that American Psycho world. Dying Days, issue 2 from Red 5 Comics. This is a world where everybody ages exponentially faster than they should. So it's like your 70-year lifespan is actually only like seven years long. Or you grow even faster than that. And this is a boy who's like supposed to be a young man, and he's starting to age really fast, and he doesn't want that to happen. So he's like, I'm going to figure out the situation. And then, of course, in issue 1, he figures out that, like, maybe we need to stand up and fight against the government. And so he's trying to come up with a plan on how he's going to be involved in that kind of situation. And then we're also seeing some lab scientists and some work that they are doing, and kind of getting a little bit of information maybe about how this all started and the cure and the people who are working on the cure for it. And it's not going the way they want, but of course capitalist gains are like, well, we're going to make it work whether you want it to or not. And so we're going to get, we're only going to get 4 issues, so they're going to move really quickly, much like they age. But it's like, are they going to cure it? Is this kid going to take everything down? Is everybody going to age before they have time to do it? We've got a real fast-moving pace here because we have to, because time is of the essence in the story, and it's been really cool to see how they're playing with that in the medium very quickly. Captain Ginger, The Last Feeder, issue 2 from Ahoy Comics, and this was only a duology. It was only the 2 issues for this series, which is kind of a shame to me because I want to see more books about cat superheroes. So we could have more Captain Ginger, but Captain Ginger is a leader of a space team, and he's kind of almost like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, him and his team are kind of those guys who just go out and take on all the stuff that nobody wants to. And in issue 1, he is teleported at random to a ship that has the last feeder on it, which is essentially a human, because that's what the cats refer to the humans as. And we learn that basically this woman did experiments with dogs and cats to try to turn them into people. And she was working on dogs, somebody else was working on cats. They had a big rivalry, and she is now currently at her end, and he is trying to figure out how he can protect her and his people all at the same time, and the bad guys are encroaching on them, so a battle is coming. I love that I said they're kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, and like literally, like, his uniforms look like he just looks like he's wearing one of the classic like red and blue Guardians of the Galaxy uniforms. But yeah, it's a 2-issue series that honestly gave us so much information so quickly. I don't want to spoil that since this is the last one. There is a big battle that happens and some crazy things go on in it. But seriously, like, let's have some more Captain Ginger. Captain Ginger comics all the time. Let's get an ongoing of this cat just exploring space and being cool. Faceless and the Family, issue 2 from Oni Press. This is a book that I've just honestly been showing off the art to everybody, and so I'm going to show a lot of the art to you. But this is about a guy who goes by Faceless, because he is that. He thinks that he has the ugliest face in the world, like that nobody ever should see his face. He thinks that's why his family left him, and that's why he can't hold a job or anything like that. So he is trying to get to the Hand, which is the major city space, and get his face worked on. He wants some reconstructive surgery. He saved up enough money that he thinks will get him into the town that they don't just let anybody into, but also get him the surgery. And in issue 1, which is a double-sized issue, he meets a couple of different people. One who is literally carrying everything on his back that he could ever possibly own, and a girl who is on a quest to get away from some people that are mistreating her. And the three of them team up. Along the way, they also meet another guy who kind of joins their team a little bit, but they are all trying to get into this space where they think they can start this new life, and they kind of build their own little family in the process of it. And in this issue, they are trying to sneak in, and it doesn't go the way they plan, and they learn that whoever you think you can trust in the town, maybe you can't. Maybe there's nobody worth trusting in this place, and they might lose everything. They might lose each other if they're not careful, and they really just need to figure out a way to work together and get this done. And maybe Faceless needs to learn that his face isn't terrible. We're going to find out. I hope he has this beautiful story arc as the series unfolds, but also the art's just beautiful, and it's worth it just to grab it just to see some of that amazing art. Siphon, Volume 2, Issue 2 from Image Comics, and this was actually the Ringo Award winner for Favorite Hero, I think this year. Yeah. So if you didn't read Volume 1, you do need to. It is in trade paperback form, so you can grab that. But this is not one of those where you can jump into Volume 2 and not feel lost, because it does pick up exactly like at the end of Issue 1, like Volume 2 picks up like the next day kind of situation. But this is a character who has been given the power to siphon other people's emotions, and he can use those for his own energy essentially and build his own power out of that. But he's able to kind of make people's days better or worse through that power. And one of the things is that he's an EMT, and so he's always wanted to be able to help people in this way and kind of take their pain and their burden away. And now he's able to actually do that. But in Volume 1, he makes some really terrible choices, and he's kind of having to deal with the fallout of that in a really big way in this volume. And in this issue, we learn that there is a lot of darkness that's coming to him, that this is a power that has gone through generations and all over the world of different people. And the person that's chosen to do it kind of has to really carry some major burdens, but also has to defend the world in a way that they're not prepared for. And he has just learned what that way is, and is going to have to make some choices, and also kind of make some choices on who he wants to be based off of those bad decisions he made in the previous volume. Dungeon from the Dark Spaces imprint of IDW. This is issue 2 of that. The Dark Spaces imprint is Scott Snyder's imprint, where they talk about just different places all around the world that bad things happen in, and we kind of just, want to explore that and discover it. And the very first book was Dark Spaces Wildfire, and it was Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman, and now they are back for this series. And in issue 1, we learned that there is a serial killer, essentially, who has these dungeons hidden all over the country in different places. They're just like pits in the ground or different things like that. I guess all over the world, actually. And he hides these bodies in them, and he tortures people in these little tiny, tiny dungeons. And one of the characters in the story is a man who is going for a run in the first issue, and he trips over what just looks like a hatch, and come to find out it is an old dungeon that one of the people used to be stuck in. And he's called the FBI in, and they've brought in somebody who's going to investigate, who actually has the experience of being in one of these dungeons. And in this issue, the father and the investigator are going to a place where they think they're going to find another dungeon and maybe be able to find somebody who's been stuck in there. And unfortunately, that means that some people, some things are going to happen to a lot of different people in this, and we're going to see what those dungeon spaces could look like. We're going to see some big things happen. It's an intense book in the way that you would expect Scott Snyder to do, if you're a fan of his Batman run or any of the amazing things that he's done. Other than that, Witches is, of course, one of my favorites. This is another just great Scott Snyder book. But we're really going to see just the way this investigation unfolds is going to give us like a really dark look for those true crime fans into that serial killer space. All right, we got some number 1, so before I take a look at those, I'm going to take a drink of the 50 Provinces Tempranillo. All right, the first book up is Guma, The Beginning of Her, issue 1 from Titan Comics. I actually had a lot of people request this book before it ever came out. I'm really excited that they did because it's such an interesting book. And honestly, like the blurb on the back comes from James Tynion, and I'm going to read that before I open it up. He says, it's an urban fantasy laced with horror and noir, brought to incredible life with Jiyoung's phenomenal artwork. You owe it to yourself to check out Guma. And that's such a great description, and it kind of opens up with this person who's being chased by these magi and is like, oh, I'm like, I've never seen them attack like this, and what's going on? And then you get this like weird cultish group of people that may be paranormal or something, we're not really sure, that come out of nowhere and are like, oh, we'll take care of it. And I just who are these people? What are they doing? They're like, we've got this. And then you're like, well, I want to know who these people are. I want to follow them. And then the story just like completely goes in a different direction and doesn't really circle back to them. So now I'm really, really intrigued about where they are, because they're like talking about like the altar and the church and everything. And then it kind of flip-flops and goes to this man who is the security person outside of a drug den. And he runs essentially like a brothel / drug den and is just the security guard, but he runs a very tight ship. And we see these women who are forced to make drugs, and then we see these other women who are forced to be prostitutes in the drug den, and so they're all drugged up. And the guy that's in charge is basically like, oh, well, we do that so that they won't ever leave, because they're being told like, oh, if you make enough money, you can leave. And they're like, but if we get them hooked on the drugs, then they won't ever go. But there's this overtone, like this woman is like essentially like living in a convent is what it kind of looks like, but she's not. She's living in this drug den. And so we're getting so many layers of where this story might go, and yet again it doesn't really circle back to where that original story started, and it goes into so many other levels of story. Like we find out that there's a little girl, and I'm not going to necessarily tell you who she is. I want you to read that and see where that goes, and just these connecting pieces of the puzzle. We're going to get something really big, because we didn't actually get any urban fantasy at all, other than these, like, the magi and the weird people that showed up in the beginning, but we don't know what they are. And so the urban fantasy and the horror that is being told to us that this is what we're getting, we didn't get that, but we got this weird, creepy, like, setup and all these different pieces of the puzzle. So it's like, this is going to go some really big places really fast, and I cannot wait to see what exactly they are going to do. And I think it's funny, because one of the quotes on the back is like, this is an intriguing first issue, and that's the best way to describe it, because you're like, I don't even know what's happening right now and where this is going, but the story's so good, and I'm following along, and I'm getting to know all these characters, and you're like, this is going to go somewhere, and I know wherever it goes, I'm going to be invested. Loop Guru, and that's probably not how you say any of that, from Blood Moon Comics. This is a one-shot from the same creative team that did Endangered. And so this is...
I think it's Luguru.
Luguru? I think that's right, because it's Cajun, and that makes sense. This is about a guy who is a cameraman, and he can't get a job. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And his agent's like, well, I can get you on this reality show deep in Louisiana in the swamplands. And he's like, I do not want to do a show in Louisiana. And he's like, well, then you got no money, so make your choices. And so the guy takes the job, goes out, and he's basically just on a boat following behind this dude who's telling him all about life on the bayou. And they're like, where are we going? He's like, we're going to catch these frogs. It's all part of the show, just go with it. And this woman goes by, and she's like, hey, it's getting dark, you need to get off the bayou, you guys need to go back to where you came from, it's not time. He's like, I live out here, I do this every day, I'm good, I got this. And they continue on their way. And you know, whenever somebody comes up and gives you a warning that you need to get off a bayou, you probably need to get off a bayou. And they don't listen, and the second half of this book tells you what happens when you don't listen to the person in the horror story that tells you to leave. And I am not going to show you any of that, because I want you to figure it out for yourself and have fun on that adventure. So this is a one-shot, so you get the whole thing right there. Check it out. It's just a fun, quick adventure into horror. And Blood Moon, which they're so good at horror. Sabrina the Teenage Witch's holiday special is out from Archie Comics. This is also a one-shot. We get 2 different stories in here. The first of which is Sabrina dealing with a problem where there's a creature that is attacking her and her friends, and she helps her friends set up a way to stop this creature, save the people, do all the things they need to do, and kind of just really, take on some monsters. And it's fun. It's very Chilling Adventures-esque, but it's actually more in line with, I guess they should say, all the teen Archie stuff that's been coming out, like the Vampironicas and the Jughead the Hunger. It's not Chilling Adventures. It's not that dark. But kind of feels in that new vein, that less scary vein. And then we have a story that goes back in time where Sabrina is learning from Hilda and Zelda all about the Spellman's family solstice traditions. And she is kind of seeing that, Aunt Zelda has always been the popular one, and her dad, of course, Edward, was known for being popular. And so Hilda's like, well, I just want to have fun with my family, and my family doesn't hang out with me, so she just decides to take on this magical solstice experience that really just kind of ruins things for everybody. And things get dark fast, and she has to kind of learn to deal with them. But you are getting 2 stories, like I said. One is from Kelly Thompson, who has done a whole bunch of Sabrina, and the other is from Danielle Page, who is actually the writer of a young adult series that is about the Wizard of Oz. So I was really excited to see both of these 2 getting some awesome stories, and I honestly am just here for this cover. I love this cover so much. This is exactly what I think the holidays should look like. They should look like Sabrina in this beautiful snowy mountain with some magical fire. And I love her. If I could have her hair, my life would be complete. Under Heist, issue 1 from Boom Studios. This is your newest, we're going to rob a bank kind of story, except they're going to do it a little bit differently. And if you watch this show, that I love my Ocean's 11 style heist books. I'm always in for a good heist story. And this one follows a guy who is literally in like a bank robbers anonymous kind of thing. Like, he is supposed to be turning away from his life of crime, and he is presented with an option to rob some people, and he ends up looking into it, and he knows, like, he's supposed to get a promotion, it doesn't go through kind of thing. He's got a baby on the way, he's trying to just get clean, and he's like, you know what, let's do this. This is, one last job. And him and all of his friends work in the tunnels that all the trains go through underground. And so he's like, here's the thing. I learned that these people who are going to rob this bank are going to try to use the tunnels as their way out. So instead of robbing the bank, we're going to rob the people who robbed the bank. And everything kind of gets set up. They do all of their things, and then we come to the heist date, and of course nothing ever goes as planned. But the thing is that this is Boom, and this, you can see from the cover, has some really dark paranormal elements on it. So we know it's not just a generic heist book. There is something that is dark and sinister coming in this story, and I cannot wait to see what it is. There are so many little pieces of it that kind of just come up at the end of the story, so I'm not going to show them to you, but it is going to open up a big giant can of worms. And, stop doing one last job. Like, I feel like every time somebody calls it one last job, it's like, well, that's going to go terribly. Valley of Death, issue 1 from Blood Moon. Not connected to Usher of the Dead, which I totally thought it was because it's obviously the same art style. But this is not connected to the Usher of the Dead story from Blood Moon. This is actually the story of a young boy who suddenly finds himself in the woods and is lost, and it's nighttime, and he is being chased by the craziest looking demons that he has ever seen. He doesn't know what's going on, and he runs up to a cabin to try to find sanctuary, and he's like, you have to let me in. And the lady in the cabin is like, I don't have to do anything. I don't know you. This is the middle of the woods. Who are you? You're just some crazy kid. And he's like, people are chasing me. And she's like, sounds like a you problem. If I let you in, then they're going to be chasing me too. And like, basically, like, expects him to learn to, like, ask politely. And once he does, she is like, okay, if I let you in, how do I know that these creatures are going to stop and what is going to happen? And she kind of leads him into some thoughts about what's going on and kind of seems to know a lot more than we do and a lot more than he does. And so who is this woman? What is she doing? How is she connected to these creatures that are following him? How did this boy end up looking for this cabin in the woods? I don't know, but this wraparound cover seems to really give us some clues as to maybe they're all interconnected. Maybe this woman's part of the demons. Maybe the demons work for her. Don't really know, but we're going to find out what's going on in the Valley of the Death soon enough as we get to issue 2. Blood Run, a one-shot from Scout Comics. And I always have people ask me, when is Stefano Carselli going to make something else? Because I just really love his artwork. Here it is. Here's another Stefano art book for you. And it is a one-shot, and it is a lot of fun. This is like a little death race one-shot. And so we have an announcer who is leading us through literally this death race, and he's introducing all the characters, and we get to kind of see each one come around the corner, learn a little bit about them, and then see their adversary come around next, learn a little bit about them, and see how this plays out for them. This was just an all-around fun book. The thing is all like, oh, it's going to be this person, no, it's going to be this person, and they're like the craziest things. Like, one of them's like, oh, this is the guy that's been delivering ice cream in your neighborhood, but he's like serving up something else now, and you get your your guy that is the death guy, and he's like, ooh, he's got this and this and this going on in his car, and I don't know, they're all so fun. I don't want to spoil any of them, but of course, like, we've got I love the girl that we have that is, oh my gosh, what is she called? The Genius. And she is supposed to, like, she's, like, undisturbed by anything happening, like pouring tea in her car. She's just, like, bombing all these people and doing all this crazy stuff from within her car. And yet she's just drinking tea. And they're like, she didn't spill a smidge of it. What is going on here? Honestly, if you're just looking for something crazy, off the wall, completely fun, and one and done with some great artwork, this is it. Blood Run. One shot from Scout this week. You absolutely need to check it out. I would literally show you every page of that book. Matt's like, I'm going to take that.
Really put number 1 on.
I know.
And one shot underneath.
And so many people do that, and that's really confusing. Most publishers, when a one-shot comes out, still write number 1 on it. And I think it's so that people think, like, oh, it's a new one, like, I got to grab it. But, like, honestly, it's so confusing to people because they're like, okay, so is there going to be a number 2? Because no, I know. And if you don't know what a one-shot is, it means it's one and done. Means it's the only issue of the story. It's all self-contained in that one thing. And so, check that when you see those number 1s. Sometimes check and see if it has any note of a one-shot on it. Sometimes it won't, and it's still only a one-shot. And so that gets really confusing. But you can always ask. A lot of times we can look up how many issues are going to be in something before you even jump onto it. So, don't be afraid to ask questions. Hopefully, wherever you pick up your comics, they won't judge you for asking questions because it's all about learning, and nobody can know everything, so we all learn together. The Bloody Dozen, issue 1 from Image Comics, and this is part of the Shrouded College universe that Charles Soule is building. If you are a fan of Charles Soule, who did Daredevil and She-Hulk, and anybody else that's ever been a lawyer, or 8 Billion Genies, one of last year's biggest books, you might have picked up the Shrouded Hell to Pay, which was the first book in the Shrouded College world. He is doing 6 miniseries that are all in the same universe that don't really connect, but might kind of sort of like have little crossover moments. And then there will be a 7th miniseries that is actually the crossover of the whole thing. And in this one, we see a woman who shows up to Cape Canaveral and is like talking to some people who are supposed to be astronauts, and she ends up calling out this woman and is like, you're not an astronaut because she never went to space, so that shouldn't count. And ends up taking this woman and is like, hey, we know that you are trying to get your life back in order. Like, you lost your daughter, she became a drug addict, and is making all the wrong decisions, and your dad hates you. I can save that. I can bring your whole family back together if you agree to what I want you to do. And she's like, well, what do you want me to do? And she's like, I'm not going to tell you until we get your family back together. Well, if you read Hell to Pay, or you are familiar with the Shrouded College in any way, shape, or form, you know that they are not exactly in it for the goodness. They will offer you whatever it is that you need to make your life what it is that you want to, and to cure you of any ailments or help you overcome any problems that you have. But you are going to owe them money and be in debt to them for an infinite amount of time. And I love that this one is setting up that they are going to have to essentially do a prison break for a prison that is near the sun out in space. And so that's the reason why, like, this astronaut family is the only people who can do it. And there's so many little pieces to this puzzle as well that Charles Soule's really pushing out really fast. I love him because he even says, like, I think everything should have a purpose and a story to the story and a meaning behind it, but it should also be fun and just a great adventure at the same time. And he's like, you know, Hell to Pay was all about, like, the corruption of capitalism in a really big, like, adventure. And now he's like, we're going to talk about some other things as the story goes on, but you might not even notice. Invasive, issue 1 from Oni Press. I've already told Matt if he needs to leave the room during this one, he can. This is the story of a woman and a detective who were previously working together on an investigation, and kind of both stopped, and now they are connecting back together. And that investigation is geared around the fact that there is somebody who is taking people and performing surgeries on them, and not necessarily unelected. Like, some of them are actually, like, electing for these surgeries, but they are getting more than what they bargained for. And we open up with the woman who is a doctor who is not working in the field anymore, at a recovery group for people who have become addicted to surgery. And she is not somebody who has ever even had a surgery, but she needs to be around those people because she's hoping that she can find the person who may be responsible for the case that she was previously working on with this detective. And we get to see a little bit of what they were working on. We get to see why it's so important to her, which is the thing I'm not going to run for you on in issue 1. And we get to see some of the things that make it important to the detective. But we also get a little glimpse of the group that is possibly behind all of these surgeries and what is going on and the darkness that comes from it. This is such a great first issue for a good new horror book. And, you know, we talk about this a lot, that Cullen Bunn is when he is focused on, like, one book at a time, he can really knock it out of the park, especially in the horror realm. And I think that this is going to be that one that he really puts a lot into, and we're going to see some great stuff come out of this book. It's obviously for mature readers. Anything that's going to have that much violence in it is going to be pretty dark, and there's going to be some big emotional stories that are also going to connect with it. But also, if you're afraid of unelected or elected surgeries, maybe don't read that book. That's your trigger warning for that, because you are going to see. We're going to see a lot of that, and you do see some of it towards the end of that issue, which is why I didn't show it to you. The Lodger, also a one-shot, and this is from Floating Shakespeare Comics, I believe is the name of the publisher. But this takes place in 1954 in Dallas, Texas, and this was such a cool flip on something that we see quite often, which is we've seen a lot of possession stories coming out recently, but this follows Dr. Drusilla Saxby, who is a psychologist, and she has the ability to kind of use that in a psychic way. And there is a patient who they believe to be possessed by a demon, and so the priests are like, we're going to call you in, we need your help with this. And so she goes to investigate the situation, only to find out that it's not, like, the demon didn't want to possess this person. The person is essentially holding the demon hostage while he goes through his own traumas and the things that make him think that life is terrible, and he's kind of forcing the demon in. And it just reminded me of all those memes where it's like, oh yeah, well, demon tried to possess me, and then it saw how, like, dark my mind was and was like, oh my god, you live like this? Basically, somebody took that meme and wrote an entire story in like 1954, demon possession. And we see this doctor and the patient and the demon all kind of trying to possess this same space at different times while they figure out how to save him and to save the demon, ironically. And it's such a cool flip on that kind of demonic possession story, and I absolutely love the way they did this things for sure. And this is Jock, J-O-K, not Jock, J-O-C-K, who you may know from all of the work with Scott Snyder and currently over at Distillery. This is a different Jock, not the same guy. But I have been really enjoying this Jock's art as well on a lot of these one-shots and miniseries from small press publishers. And so, he just had an Image book, the In Hell We Fight. Yeah. That had some really cool art. And so it's just, it's such a unique style, and I love the weird, like, off-the-wall, like, things that we get in all these different pieces, and it works really well in the imaginary spaces that we go into in this world. So check it out. Again, a one-shot. It's an oversized one-shot, too. It's not one of the smaller ones, so this is a great way to get a lot of story for a one quick read. Skeeters, issue 1 from Mad Cave, and I love this. You got to zoom in on this. We are starting to see these 10th anniversary logos on the Mad Cave books. I'm super excited about that. If you don't know, we are heading into the 10th anniversary of Mad Cave Mad Cave Studios, and we are going to see some great things come out of them for next year for their 10-year anniversary. I'm really excited about that. And this is such a crazy book to kick it off with, but this is in a place where they are doing some lab work, and in the process of doing their lab work, they accidentally mess up, and some giant mosquito-type creatures eat everybody in the lab, and then they, we're going to have some kind of outbreak. We're going to see it. And we do get some crazy mosquito outbreak situations going on. And it gets very insane very fast. And as somebody who spent a lot of time in East Texas as a child on a beach that my family has lovingly named Mosquito Beach, which is not what it's actually called, this was the most terrifying book of the week for me, because I was like, oh my God, I've been to this place before, and these mosquitoes are going to get me, and it's going to be awful. And if you're just looking for a book, a good classic, like the bugs are coming for you horror book, this is going to be the one. It's got all of the classic feeling. Like, you've got the cop that's like, what's going on at that lab? I got to figure it out. You got the guy that's supposed to be, like, delivering the stuff, who's really bad at it and isn't paying attention. And you get your all of your tropes, but you're getting mosquitoes that bring death. And, it's going to be fun. The Addams Family, Charlatans Web, issue 1 from IDW. And this is an ongoing, this is not a one-shot. We are actually getting an Addams Family story that's going to keep going, and I'm super excited about that. And yeah, at the same time, you do get 2 stories in the book. So the first one is about a new, not a fitness center, I guess. It's like some of the people are taking yoga, but it's kind of just like a fitness center that kind of is turning everybody into Stepford Wives, or for you 90s kids, more of your disturbing behavior kind of situation. And of course, Wednesday is automatically distressed by these better we people who are turning everybody into polo shirt, khaki pant wearing, proper behaving, boring people, and she and her friends are going to have to take that down. And we do end on a cliffhanger with that, which is how we know we're going to get some more information to come, or more story to come for that one, which I'm super excited about. We've only kind of had some Addams Family one-shots, but we do get a second story where some people are like, hey, we should rob the Addams Family because they have all this money, so they've got to have all these hidden jewels and stuff, and because they think their house is creepy, nobody would actually ever break in, so they don't have a security system. And it seems like they're gone because nobody's gone from the house in over 2 weeks, and so these criminals try to break in. But if you've ever seen the Addams Family TV show, you know that this happens pretty frequently, where people try to like sneak in or take advantage of the Addams, only to find out that the Addams are there. They're completely clueless to the fact that you are trying to rob them, and their strangeness just kind of moves you in a way. Sorry, I forgot that. Moves you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Moves you to a new adventure that you didn't want to go on, and it's quite hilarious. And so I love it because that backstory really feels like your classic Addams Family TV show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But you do get that new Addams Family from the newest movie animation style for the drawings, so it's kind of a great thing for the old and new generations of Addams fans to come together on. Assassin's Apprentice Volume 2, Issue 1 from Dark Horse. Another one where if you didn't read Volume 1, you need to go back and grab that before you jump into it. It wasn't a very long series, though, so it's only like 3 or 4 issues for the first arc, so not too much to jump into. But this is the story of a young boy who is the son of one of the kings in a place, or princes, in a place where everybody kind of has a name that defines what they are. And his father was the one that was supposed to be the just king, the one that never did anything wrong. Like, he had all of the best, like, attributes and stuff. And they find out that he had a son out of wedlock. And so this son comes to live in the palace grounds, but not actually in the palace, and is being trained to be an assassin by the king's royal assassin, and also kind of learning to be a diplomat so that he can go in and get all this information and work as a spy and an assassin. And in this second volume, he is actually assigned to his first actual attempt to be a part of that team. And so he is forced to go with the prince, who is like the next in line to become king, who is going to work on a situation where they're being raided at one of their towers, and so they are trying to get their allies to defend this tower in the way they're supposed to. And he is the one that goes in and says, finds the secret information and is able to kind of figure out whether or not that can be saved. And he's got to decide, is it going to be something that he can save, or is he going to have to kill the people, because he is there as either diplomat or assassin, whichever one becomes the most important for the kingdom at the time. And we are going to see this kid who has very strong feelings about not being an assassin on his first mission. And so if you didn't read Volume 1, recommend it, because he has this really cool power where he can actually hear and speak to dogs. And so it kind of gives him, like, he just kind of wants to live playing with animals and stuff all the time. And so he's got this, like, heart of gold, but he's supposed to be an assassin. And then we have Masterpiece #1 from Dark Horse, and Brian Michael Bendis, who has moved over to Dark Horse with all of his new titles and all of his old titles. And this one is about a young girl who is starting a new school, and on her very first day, like, the teacher's like, hey, can you come up and tell everybody about yourself? And she's like, no, I have no desire to do that. And in the process of that going terribly wrong, the FBI burst in, and they're like, hey, we're here for you, you're coming with us. And they take her out of class, and of course we find out immediately this is not the FBI, but these are people who are trying to kidnap this young girl, because she is connected to her parents, who she's never met before, who apparently double-crossed someone in the world of crime, and she is now going to have to atone for their sins to this person. And she's being told that she is this masterpiece and this mastermind of crime, but she has never had any of these experiences and doesn't know anything about it. And so she is kind of figuring all of this out. I love it, though, because she writes these webtoons, and they are ridiculous, and it's just a fun little add-on to the story. But a lot of fun. Brian Michael Bendis has always been really good at these teen characters, and that, like, finding your identity within these powers that you were just given or that you never knew you had. And so I think this is going to be a fun story, in that he's now blending his, like, current focus on crime stories, like going back to his focus on crime stories and his teen stories and putting it all together. We've got 2 picks of the week this week. Up first is Salwa and the Belly of the Beast issue 2 from Boom's Boombox line, which is actually their They're not middle grade, young adult imprint. Oh my god, I was going to get there, I promise. They've got Kaboom for the younger kids, Boombox for their teens, and of course Boom Studios for their adults. And this is done entirely by Michael Dialanis, who is the artist on Wind. And honestly, if you told me that this took place in the same world as Wind, I would 100% believe you, because it looks so much like it, but it also feels like it. And when I read the first issue, like when I first opened it up, I was like, oh my god, I hope we get the same heart and love that we got out of Wind from James Tynion, and you really do. This story follows 3 kids who work, two of them, their mom owns a bakery. They own a bakery. Their dad used to own it, and the dad was also kind of the chef for the town, for the mayor. And the dad has since passed away or gone missing. He's not around. Something happened to him. And since then, the mayor has kind of run all of the food into the ground for the town. And they keep being told that they have to sacrifice it for this guardian, Zawa, who will protect them. And they go into the food storage and they try to steal a bunch of food in issue 1 and ingredients so that maybe they can make something better for the community. And the son, who is now the one who cooks all the food at the bakery, finds himself in a garbage chute where all of the food is being thrown down to a monster, the beast as it was, and he discovers that beast is not what anybody has been told it is, and now somehow he has found himself responsible for this beastly creature. And again, the heart on this is already wonderful. The art I love so much. I love the universe building that Wind had in its art and its storytelling, and this is definitely going to give us another beautiful world, and I can't wait to see where this one goes. It's just, and it because it is Boombox, you can give this to all ages, and it's going to be something that everybody will enjoy. And you know it's just going to be heartfelt and warming at the end. And then lastly, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue 2 from IDW Original. I'm really hoping there's a second print. There was a second print. It was this week. There was a second print. You will need that because the first print is completely sold out pretty much everywhere. There is a second print. This is issue 2, but there is a second print of Beneath the Trees.
Issue 1?
Of issue 1.
Oh.
Yes. But this is the story of a town that is all animals, and in that town there is a bear who happens to be a serial killer, but she doesn't kill anybody in her own town because she doesn't want anybody to know that she's a killer, and she doesn't want to kill anybody that she knows and loves. And so she has always gone into the city to kill these people. She owns the local hardware store. She's an upstanding citizen, but in issue 1, somebody is murdered in the town, and nobody knows who did it, and now they are kind of doing their own investigating, but she's worried if the police start doing the investigating that they're going to come in the wrong direction, and they're going to accidentally uncover that she is a killer, even though she's not the one who did this crime. And so in this issue, she starts doing her own investigation of the situation, and she goes after... she ends up finding out that there's a lot of people in this town who aren't good people. And maybe there's more to the town that seems so perfect and sweet before this happened than could have been assumed. But she has this great commentary on just like how people respond to situations, and the way that she can evaluate people is also just really great. If you're a fan of Dexter, the book series, this is the most adorable version of that, or the movie or the TV show. But this is the most adorable version of that possible. And you're really getting that serial killer. You're following the serial killer who is also helping to solve crimes of other serial killers, and is like, I'll take care of it and I'll stop it. It's very much just like that Dexter plot, but with cuddly animals. Like I said, issue 1 did sell out most places, but a second print did come out this week. And so you can grab that second print of issue 1 and then jump into this. And this is definitely one of those books that flies off the shelf. So give it a go if you haven't yet. That is all of the books that we are going to deep dive into. I'm going to tell you there's still a ton of other books in stock this week, so we're going to fly through those really fast just to let you know what's out there. World's Finest, Teen Titans issue 6 from DC Comics. The White Widow, issue 2 from Marvel. This is for all of you Yelena fans. Wheel of Time has a comic series, and we are on book 2 of The Great Hunt, so it is, putting the books in adaptation in comic form. Street Fighter Masters, Kimberly, issue 1. I believe those are one-shots as well. Silver Surfer Rebirth Legacy with another one of those Peach Momoko Nightmare variants on issue 4. Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, Fatal Final Exams, issue 4, out this week. Quick Stops is back with a volume 2. So those of you Jay and Silent Bob fans needing some Kevin Smith in your life, issue 1 of volume 2 is out. Outsiders, issue 2, out this week from DC Comics. Marvel Zombies, this is issue 3. These are anthologies, so if you didn't get 1 or 2, that's fine. You don't have to. You can jump in right here. You're going to get multiple stories in each issue. This one has a story from Peach Momoko, who is doing the writing and the art, one from Matt Groom, and one from Sherilyn Eaton. So get your Marvel Zombies on. I already said that. DC's Christmas book is out. So 'Twas the Might Before Christmas, your DC annual Christmas one-shot right here. Capwolf and the Howling Commandos, issue 1, second print, is out this week. This is another one that sold out on that issue 1 for us, so I want to make sure people know that they are back if you need it. Batman Joker Deadly Duo Unplugged, so the black and white version of issue 1 of Batman Joker Deadly Duo is out now. With the noir issues of Batman books doing so well, and the Batman black and white always being a big thing, that something people are jumping for. The Alternates, issue 4 from Dark Horse. This is part of Patton Oswalt's Minor Threats universe. Bounty Hunters, issue 41. We're still going with this Dark Droid storyline. I do want to call out that this is coming up soon, a new Thrawn comic. For those of you Thrawn fans, know that it is time to put those orders in now. Teen Titans Beast World Tour Gotham. There's a... Yeah, it's a long title. So, Teen Titans series, the Titans series is going on, is having a Beast World event, and then within that, there's, all these different one-shots. So, you're going to have a lot of, and mini-series. So, Teen Titans, Beast World, or Titans, Beast World event, one-shots and events within there. Immortal Thor, issue 5 from Al Ewing and Marvel Comics. Space Usagi, issue 1. This is the death in honor of Space Usagi. So small. They made the number so tiny. I was like, is it 1? It's so little. I can't tell. Miles Morales Spider-Man, issue 13, with that Nightmare variant from Peach Momoko. And I think this is my favorite Nightmare variant so far, because that looks creepy for sure with all those little spiders. Action Comics, issue 1060, for all you super family friends. Star Wars, The High Republic, Shadows of Starlight, issue 3. The Scorched are back with issue 24 for my Spawn fans. Rogue Sun, issue 17. If you are following along with the massive verse from Kyle Higgins and all the Radiant Black World, you should definitely be checking out Rogue Sun. Moon Knight, issue 30, and possibly his death? Who knows? You have to read it to find out. 30. And that's the end of, I believe that will be the end of that run of Moon Knight, because he is allegedly dead. Luke Cage and his Gang War title, issue 2. Gang War is the Marvel event for all your street level heroes in your New York area, and it is going until March. Alan Scott Green Lantern issue 2 as a part of your Dawn of DC, bringing back all those Golden Age characters. Captain America issue 4 for the new J. Michael Straczynski run on Captain America. Danger Street issue 12 from Tom King over at DC. Are you Lady Cop fans? Birds of Prey Uncovered. This is the celebration of just all the cool covers that came out for Birds of Prey with the new team. So you're going to get, if you're looking for some cool pin-up posters, essentially, of the covers, you can get those through there. Batman and Robin, issue 4, and this is where we've been fighting Shush, the daughter of Hush, in that story. Detective Comics, issue 1079. Cannot believe how far into detective and action we are. 83 years. Saint Sia, Knights of the Zodiac Time Odyssey. This is from Ablaze. This is issue 3. And if you are a manga fan and you were like, I really love manga, but I want it in that single issue and I want to read it American style where it reads the front to back, left to right, this is such a great book to check out because this is literally just like everything manga all rolled into one in a really great story. Godzilla, the Best of Gigan, and this is one of those really cool biggie covers that I know Matt loves so much. They're so bright and fun. And then we've got a couple of different trade paperbacks in stock. This is Earthbound Blanc, and this is, it's Phil wakes up in the middle of a cemetery only to discover he's been dead for a few months, and he's now what you would call a zombie, but that feels derogatory towards him, so he refuses to use that term. But you're getting into that classic cartoonist style in bright colors, which is a lot of fun. Macbeth, A Tale of Horror. This is such a beautiful version of Macbeth. Oh my gosh, I gotta show you some of this. Like, look at this crazy black, white, and red art for Macbeth. It works so well. If you needed a new adaptation of Macbeth, this is gonna be one of your most gothic, beautiful versions that you are gonna find right now. I Am Hexed, Volume 1. This is a rocket ship comic, and it is all about a bunch of witches. It's a supernatural political thriller, magic, mystery, personal drama, and some accidentally carnivorous plants, all taking place in the 1960s. This is going to be such an exciting book. And then we've got 2 fan favorites, one being Hunt, Kill, Repeat from Mad Cave. This is, I'm very excited because it doesn't say it collects the whole series. It says it collects issues 1 through 6, which means hopefully we're going to get more. But this is all about the Greek gods are mad because we don't pay attention to them anymore, so they take over all of the world again, and Artemis falls in love with a human and decides to fight back against her family. And then, lastly, The Seasons Have Teeth from Boom Studios. This was such a gorgeous, gorgeous book. All about a man who, it was supposed to be like a war photographer and did a terrible job, never actually went to the war, never did anything. And then his wife passes away, and so he feels like he owes it to her to go out and capture the seasons, which I'm going to show you are these giant kaiju in the most beautiful moments. And if you didn't read it, grab it. It's so good. You're gonna love it, if nothing more than just for the beautiful art, but it also just has that wonderful story to go with it. That's what we got for you this week. For the record, this is the week of the holidays, and so we will be open regularly on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We are closing early on Saturday, the 23rd, and we will be closed on Christmas Eve, December 24th. We are always closed on Monday, so of course we will be closed on Christmas, but just to remind you, closing early on Saturday the 23rd, closed Christmas Eve, obviously closed on Monday for Christmas Day. But we will be here the rest of the week, so if you've got your new comics that you need to pick up this Wednesday, come on in, grab them. We will be here with them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and half of Saturday at least for you to come grab all the new stuff or last-minute gifts that you may need for people that are fans of all things wonderfully pop culture and amazing in the comic book universe. We also have a superhero story time this Friday at 11:30, so the kids will be out of school. If you need something to do, the craft section will be, we'll have some crafts available for the kids to do, and there will be a story time going on, so you can come hear some stories. It is free to attend. Please come join us. There is not obviously going to be a Story Spelunkers this weekend, or I know we usually have those at the end of the month, but we will not have one. We will also not have Wind Down Your Weekend next Sunday. We are going to try to figure out when we can squeeze in a Wind Down Your Weekend with both of the next 2 Sundays being holiday weekends. We know you're busy. We don't want you to, miss anything, so we will find a time where we can hopefully come to you and tell you about all of the great and wonderful books, but it will not be next Sunday, nor will it be New Year's Eve. So keep an eye out for information about when we're going to do that, and of course, right after the end of the year, we will have our fan favorites, our Batastic Awards for all of our favorite books for this year, so keep your eyes and ears open for when that's going to happen. Until then, we will see you this Wednesday for a new comic book day. Please check out some amazing indie comics this week, or any comics, whatever it is that you love. Find the book that's right for you, Go out and read comics. They're wonderful. Support small businesses. Support your local comic shop. And until I see you again, happy reading, everyone.